TV. Okay, now we're in the TV section proper. All I want to say this week, Mr. Robot is now the closest thing I've felt to Breaking Bad. The most recent episode had this sense of dread and problem solving and edge of your seat, kind of like, oh my god, what's he gonna do? How's he gonna get out of this? Which made Breaking Bad such a fantastic show. Add to that the elements of this unreliable narrator who may be seeing people that aren't there, imagining situations that aren't actually happening. And then I guess subtract some of the black humor. There are some kind of funny moments in the show, but not at the level of humor that Breaking Bad was able to muster, where you have tension, 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 and then great release. But that's not taking anything away from it. This episode, Mr. Robot, was a prison break. So last week we had a hacker heist. This was a hacker prison break, and it was so great. Just, I can't say enough good things about it, and I really don't want to give away the plot line because I think a lot of people are going to come to this show. I think it's still a pretty popular show, but I think a lot of people are going to come to it a little bit later. I have a really good feeling about the rest of this season. I'm starting to feel a certain kind of arc that could go to some really cool places, and I don't want to spoil. If you're watching this and you haven't seen Mr. Robot yet, I don't want to spoil anything. I just want to say it's doing some really fantastic stuff. Watch the show, please. Moving on to another show I can't recommend enough, Hannibal. And I just said I can't recommend it enough, but this most recent episode, And the Woman Clothed in Sun, the other half of the Great Red Dragon painting by William Blake, was fine. This episode was fine. Once again, it's beautiful, but I'm getting more worried about the fact that I know everything that's going on. It really feels like the movie Red Dragon to me. 90% of the dialogue in this plot line is taken right from the book, and since the other movies were very faithful to the book, these characters are saying lines, and immediately I'm seeing the other actors who played these characters saying those lines, and that's kind of a shame because it makes it kind of hard to stay in the moment. And, you know, because the characters have been augmented enough, and they're different enough in their own world, in this world, that it feels kind of strange sometimes having the characters say lines that are for the very particular versions of those characters in the book. I'll give you an example. Hannibal giving his classic line about like, oh, that's the same atrocious aftershave you wore in court, feels like it doesn't feel like something this Hannibal would say. They kind of save it in a second because then Hannibal talks about like, oh, that seems like something a child would select. Is there a child in your life? I see why you would want to marry someone who already has a child. Will, now you don't have to pass on your genes. That's interesting. That's some potent territory to explore, and starts to get back at the really rich relationship that in this world Hannibal and Will have, which the movies aren't able to do because you can't, you know, you don't have the luxury of 3 seasons of television to set all that up. So, anything that isn't being taken directly from the book is lovely. I love the fact that Alana is in charge of the prison that Hannibal's in. I love the fact that we're seeing some of the backstory now of what exactly Hannibal did with Abigail. I'm not quite sure why we're seeing Abigail right now or how it ties into the rest of this season, but it's kind of cool to see. And maybe it was just this one contained episode because we pretty much saw just a few select scenes starting at when Hannibal said he was going to kill Abigail, all the way up to the moment before Will arrives and the bloodbath that was the end of season 2 happens. So that was really cool, and maybe they just wanted to get that in there, and I'm totally fine with that. But then, yeah, everything with Francis Dollarhide, everything with Hannibal, it's very beautifully done, visually stunning. But I've just seen it before. I've already experienced it, and especially with so few episodes left, I want to be constantly surprised. And yeah, I hope that can happen. Still, thanks Hannibal. Of course, 5 stars with confidence, 5. Same thing with Mr. Robot. Everyone watch these shows. They're so good. Rectify's back. I've only watched the first episode. I'm not going to say very much about it yet. I have watched the first 2 seasons. I think it's already had 2 seasons. This is the 3rd season. Rectify is a show unlike anything else on television. I feel like I say that a fair amount now, but it really is. It has a pace, it has a tone, a style, a character study and dynamic to it that is really unique, and I wish I was paying more attention to it. Like, it's a show I've been watching in the background through all the seasons, and I feel like I'm missing a lot, which is a shame. I think it deserves more attention than what I've given it so far. I'd like to go back and look at it closer, but at this part of the show, William Holden is still free, and we still don't know if he actually killed the person who he allegedly killed, but the way that everyone's perception of him is constantly changing makes for a very dynamic and interesting show. I'll tell you more about it when I get to the end of the season, but yeah, check out Rectify, really cool show. I give it so hard when I feel like I'm not doing the show. It's due diligence, giving it the justice it deserves. I'm going to say 4 stars with a confidence of 2. Rectify.